Let's bring in the Hall of Famer Charley Steiner, 17 seasons as the Dodgers play-by-play voice on AM 570 LA Sports. Chaz, good to have you back. What was the atmosphere like there the last two nights?
It was fun. It was electric. The first game, the fans were angry. I mean, there was an open hostility. And then when they got down 3-0 and we had more inflatable trash cans than I'd ever seen in my life. And we had, usually when there's a home run, a ball is thrown back onto the field. There were foul balls that were thrown back onto the field. So the first game, it was a little bit dicey. Last night, for a change, it was in fact the players and their bats that did most of the talking. So both of the nights were dramatic and theatrical. Last night in Hollywood, where they always strive for a happy ending, at long last there was.
But also, I wonder if winning a World Series has diffused this just a little bit for Dodger fans.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Just wondering.
But it was fascinating because one of the beauties of working at Dodger Stadium, it's a home field advantage. It's, a visually spectacular ballpark. The sun sets, the San Gabriel Mountains are off in the distance, and you have 52,000 each of the first two nights. The first night, there was this air of trepidation. And after being shut out in the first game, last night, Max Scherzer shows up, have gun will travel. He might have been Paladin. And the way he came out and did his business, the Dodgers were in desperate need of a win. They were feeling awful about the previous night. And then there was this sense of, okay, now it's the players' turn to speak their vengeance. And they did so with their bats. And the crowd was a little, well, I can't say subdued, a little more gentlemanly last night than they were in the first night. But there were two terrific theatrical games between two terrific teams who, of course, met in the World Series in 17. So it was great, great theater. And Scherzer just turned in one of those performances so that if you ever needed reminding of how great this guy is and how he is able to withstand and even embrace the pressure of the moment. It was a brilliant athletic theatrical production last night.
How do you think history will treat the Astros?
Not well. I think at the end of the day, they will always have that scarlet letter. And in this town now, I don't know if it's 1 and 1A or they're just tied for first between Altuve and Carrasco. The boos were genuine. They were visceral. The other guys, they were politely booed because they're the other team. But those two guys, they really got it. And last night, when Scherzer began the game by striking out Altuve, arch enemy number one out here, the place went crackers.
Yeah.
And that was the scene, that was the feel, that was the vibe throughout the night. So it was great, great theater.
What are the Dodgers' issues right now?
They have to figure out when Kershaw gets back. They have to solidify their bullpen some. They still haven't gotten Trey Turner to arrive as yet. But last night, for instance, Dan, Scherzer comes back after his spectacular performance. And it was, it was hotel quality, as Kenny would say. He comes back to the dugout, and he is greeted by Clayton Kershaw, Mookie Betts, Albert Pujols. I mean, it was a star-studded attraction greeting him. And in all the years I've been doing it, and I've been working with Rick Monday now for 17 years, we were talking about, I had never seen a pitcher receive a curtain call. Usually when he is finished, he goes into the dugout, gets his high fives, goes about his business. Last night, it was a curtain call, and he was pushed out by whoever. Oh, it just happened to be Clayton Kershaw. It was one of those magical moments. I swear, I don't ever remember a pitcher after a performance, after coming out of the game, then getting a curtain call. So it really was a magical electric, charismatic moment last night.
What can you sum up what's going on with Cody Bellinger?
No, he really is lost. He's still getting over a shoulder issue, and so that may be part of it. But right now, he is in one of those slumps nobody ever wants to be in. He's dead last for anybody who's got at least 200 at bats. He's hitting $160 something, and it's been a soft 160 something.
Wow.
How this is eventually going to play out, don't know. But one of the things about Bellinger, he may not be hitting much, but he's still as good a defender in center field, right field, or first base as there is. So he does bring a palpable strength to the club. Right now, it just isn't with his bat.
It's great to catch up with you, Charlie. Hope you're well.
I'm doing great. They still haven't caught up to me, and apparently haven't caught up to you either.
Somebody asked about the Andrew Shue SportsCenter commercial where we traded you from SportsCenter to Melrose Place.
Yep. I ask you this one question.
No.
Where is he now? How'd that trade work out?
I like it. I like that. Where did you shoot that commercial where you're the pool boy?
We flew out to California. We flew out onto the set. and when we did, I don't know, it was 1990-ish, and Melrose Place was a big deal. And I remember getting out there, and the women on the set had no idea who the hell I was. They had no clue. The guys, all they wanted to do was talk sports. And then they put me in that getup, and it was the first and only time I had a schmata on my head. I had, my arms, and I'm Bobby the F pool boy. And I had no idea it would turn out the way it did. We actually went on site to do a SportsCenter commercial. That's how long ago and how much fun it was ago.
And people forget when we first started, and I remember going to John Walsh, who was our boss, and I said, why don't we promote SportsCenter? We promote every other show. We don't promote SportsCenter. He goes, well, we don't have to. And he said, let me see. And then he brought in Wyden and Kennedy, and then they followed us around. And then Wyden and Kennedy people, who were the geniuses behind it, said, hey, we can't get any athletes because we don't pay for anybody to do these commercials. And I reached out to Grant Hill and Jason Kidd. And I said, look, you don't get paid, but you get your own commercial. And Grant Hill played the piano in the lobby. Right. Jason Kidd came in a helicopter to drop off his highlight tape while he's in his Mavs uniform. After that, everybody wanted their commercial. And, we're forever indebted to Grant Hill and Jason Kidd. Did you have one of those? Was there one other moment that stood out as far as doing those with you?
Well, for me, I guess the one that still has legs and it's crazy. It's now 30 years almost. Follow Me to Freedom.
The Y2K?
The Y2K. And I guess Evander, come looking for me, come get your whooping. The worst part, when that spot first came out, again, you and I were at a time when we didn't know or realize ESPN was about to become what it would eventually become. Then all of a sudden, these commercials took place. I'd be walking through an airport, and I'd have some 7-year-old kid come up to me to be all excited and said, come get your whooping, and it's like, come on. And that's when I realized these commercials were onto something. Look, you and I and all of us who were there then going through that evolution, bordering on revolution, ESPN plopping onto the scene. And then those spots. The irony was, as you recall, we used to have nice Christmas parties where a couple of hundred people would show up and everybody knew one another. And by the end of the time, we would go to our own parties and we had no idea who they were, who were there, and they wanted autographs from us.
Yeah.
And at this one party, Steve Bornstein is, and it's late at night. So picture the ambiance.
ESPN president, Steve Bornstein.
Yes. And we were all sufficiently liquored up at 2 a.m. And And Bornstein says to me, the late John Saunders, and Boomer, he said, in a perfect world, Sports Center would be anchored by monkeys and clowns, and all we really need is the ESPN logo behind us. And then he says, after another belt of some hooch, he points at me and Saunders and Boomer, and he said, but you have screwed up our plan. And within several weeks, everybody had this notion of maybe we can do something to promote us. And again, they were trying to submerge our personalities initially. Now, all of a sudden, the commercials come out, and it changed only everything.
Well, Steve Bornstein is the author of the famous quote where he called me at lunch while he wanted me to sign an extension. You're just bleeping talent, using the F word. So we're having lunch, and he says, you're just bleeping talent. And
well, that's a good opening gambit.
Yeah. And, hey, we want you to sign an extension. Okay, so make up your mind. I'm just effing talent, or, hey, we want you to stay for a little while. And I signed the extension.
Yeah, I had 14 years there. How many do you have?
18.
All right.
Yeah.
So, look, it was a great run while it was, and here we are. And, one of the things I was thinking about the other night, Dan, watching Kenny and Rich doing the Olympic stuff on Peacock, it was like a Sports Center reunion, Sports Center 20 years later. And I got to tell you, I don't know about you, I felt so proud, especially with Mike, who's anchoring the whole shooting match, Kenny being Kenny and Rich being Rich. It reminded me of how good we were then.
A lot of talent.
How good they are now.
Yeah, a lot of talent. And Tirico came in, he was just a kid. And they weren't like, get in line.
And Kenny was the guy who was covering Tanya Harding in Seattle. And it's like, well, so we brought them in. And hell, they brought me in. I had no television talent. But somehow they put this thing together. And for all the years you've been doing all the years I've been doing what I'm doing, in that heyday, that was about as much fun as I ever had in my career. I mean, there we were, Ice Station Zebra, AKA Bristol, just doing what we did and did it reasonably well, and left very little blood on the floor.
It's good to catch up with you, Charlie. And thanks for joining us as always.
Dan, good to see you.
Thanks, buddy. That's Charley Steiner, 17 years, Dodgers radio play-by-play voice on our great affiliate AM 570 LA Sports, and member of the National Radio Hall of Fame.